the devil shows up in your life in the next calendar alert, trying to keep you shallow and on the surface and never going deeper into the mysteries and the beauty of God. Because you're just getting pulled and dragged from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. And if the enemy can keep you in that state, just hurrying and worried about the many things that are going on in your life, well, there's no reason for the red horns and the pitchfork and the bottle of tequila, because you have checked out of the possibility of ever being into the things of God and deep into the person of God, because you're just running like a chicken with your head cut off. You're just like a rock skimming across a lake in life, never going into the depths of who God is. And so Jesus says, Martha, Martha, I love you, but I hate seeing you this way. Jared, I love you, but I hate seeing you this way. And then he puts his finger on the problem, because notice she's irritable. Verse 40. Martha was distracted with all her preparations. And she came to him, and this is what I do when I'm incredibly busy. This is what you do when you're incredibly busy. You're trying to accomplish 400 things. You go, why isn't anybody helping me? And she says this. She says, Lord, do you not care that my sister's lazy and stupid? And no, she says, my sister has left me to do all this serving by myself. And I think she cleaned it up a little because it's Jesus she's talking to, but she's thinking it. Then tell her to help me, Jesus. So she's not just irritable with Mary, she's irritable with Jesus, which is what you do. God, look at all this stuff I have to do, and you want me to go to church, for crying out loud? I mean, I've got all this stuff I've got to do, and you're not even helping, by the way, God. And you're God. Can I remind you of that, God? You're the one who has the power to speak oceans into existence. Can't you speak to my daughter's dance recital teacher about moving the thing back a little bit? Can't you at least help me arrange all the chaos in my life? We get irritable with people. We get irritable with our husband. We get irritable with our wife. We get irritable with God, because the busyness and the chaos, it's all connected. And Jesus looks at Martha and he says something so powerful. He says, Martha, Martha. He says, you're worried and distracted by many things, but only one thing is necessary. You are worried and distracted by many things. You know this is true. If your heart is anxious in this moment, if your heart is chronically anxious, and it's what in 1947 W.H. Auden called the age of anxiety. We still live in this. It's been for 70 years. Everybody's chronically anxious and worried and stressed. And you know this is true. It's not the one thing that you're stressed about. It's the many things that you're stressed about. It's the multitude of things you're stressed about. And Jesus is putting his finger on it. He's going, it's not the one thing. It's, look, you're in there trying to cook 30 things for me. You're doing 20 things. You're trying to host. You got all these things going on. And he uses this word worried. And we kind of read over that word. But worried in the Greek, it literally means to be pulled apart on the inside. You are being torn in all these directions. Your spirit is so fragmented. It's almost like you got 50 little horses in your heart, and they're all running in different directions, just pulling you apart. And he says, that is not the wholeness of God. That is not the peace of God. That is not what God wants for you to do and who God wants you to be. That is the opposite of the life God wants for you. And I know you don't feel like you have an option, but Jesus is putting his finger on the problem. He says, you know why you don't feel like you have an option, Martha? Jared, you know why you don't feel like you have an option? Because you have determined in your heart, Martha, the many things, that you have all these non-negotiables of what you have to do. And the reason you're so anxious, and the reason you're so stressed, and the reason you're so frenetic is because it's partly because of your ambition. You have determined there are 30 things that you have got to do, 30 things that you have got to be, and they're all non-negotiables for you. They're all of equal importance for you. and you've determined, this year we have got to take the best vacation. It's a non-negotiable. My kids, they have got to eat the healthiest snacks. It's a non-negotiable. We have got to have the best dinners at night. It is a non-negotiable. When, we get to soccer practice, my kids have got to be the best players on the team. That is a non-negotiable. When the grandkids come over, this place has got to be spick and span clean, although they're going to destroy it in 10 minutes. But that's a non-negotiable. This is a non-negotiable. My husband, when he talks, this is a non-negotiable. When I, show up to work, I've got to be the most diligent and the most planned person. That's a non-negotiable. I got to get to the gym and work out 13 days a week. That's a non-negotiable. When my family thinks about me, they have to think about me as the most successful of the brothers. That's a non-negotiable. When it comes to my boss and my performance, I got to make sure that I have earned enough in terms of competency and in terms of talent, in terms of who he thinks I am, so I get that raise or that bonus. That is a non-negotiable. And you've got all these non-negotiables, many things. And you could get 29 of them done, and isn't it true? You wouldn't care. You would be thinking about the one that you didn't get done. And you'd be fixated on that one thing. They're all non-negotiables. And somebody comes to you somewhere along the way and they say, hey, you should pray. You should go to church. You should care about your faith. You're going, when? I have all these non-negotiables. And I tell you what, Jesus, if you want to spend time with me, here's how it's going to work, okay, big guy? That's what you say, not me. I'm a preacher. You need to help me with all this. Help me accomplish my list. In fact, Jesus, you show up, I'm just going to hand you a clipboard of all the stuff I'm stressed about. And you need to start getting to work. And then, and only then, if you've wielded some of your divine power to help me with all these non-negotiables, and then after I've watched 8 hours of Netflix this week, because that's also a non-negotiable, by the way, then I'm going to give you some of the leftovers of my time and my schedule. And he's going, oh, thank you so much. I feel so loved. And Jesus is looking at Martha, and he's looking at you, and he's looking at me, and he's going, Jared, I did not ask you to do those 30 things. I did not ask you to be worried about the many things. I did not determine for you that those were all non-negotiables. You determined for you that those were all non-negotiables. I did not determine for you a list of 30 things that you had to do. I just asked you for one thing to be a non-negotiable. Martha, I just asked for one thing to be at the top of your priority list. And you determined the other things. And Mary has figured out the secret, the one thing, and it will not be taken away from her. And what is it that Mary's figured out? What is she doing here that's so magical? Well, it says she's seated at the Lord's feet and listening to his word. That's the big secret. For Martha, she's got 30 non-negotiables. For Mary, she's going, I got one non-negotiable. And it's spending time at the feet of Jesus. And it's spending time under his authority, and it's spending time in his word, soaking in his word. That's the one thing that actually matters. And you're going, no, that's like 28th on the list. And he's going, no, that's the one non-negotiable that I've given to you. That's the one non-negotiable that I want you to set your heart on.